So, hello everyone, and welcome to the Leading Note podcast, an open and safe space for discussion driven by the need to raise awareness, deconstruct stigmas, and nurture support, collaboration, and wellness within the music industry. I'm Louise, I'm a part of the team here at St. George's, and I'm joined today by mentor and director of Seed Sessions, Mark Crown, and sound engineer, music producer, and percussionist, Giorgio Cortiana. We'll be talking about the incredible work of Seed Sessions, who support young male musicians through music and counselling sessions, in addition to raising public awareness, promoting understanding, and challenging the negative stigma and discrimination in relation to mental health. Mark and Giorgio, would you like to introduce yourselves and tell us a little about what you do?
My name is Mark Crown. I'm a producer, musician, trumpet player, and charity director. I've been working in the music industry for over 20 years. Still active in the music industry, making deep, soulful house and working with a few bands and artists who are active in the industry at the moment. And I'm continuing to do my work within music with Seed Sessions to really promote and talk about mental health.
I'm Giorgio, and I'm a percussionist, drummer. I've been playing since I was a kid, really. A sound engineer. I did that for more than 10 years now. I haven't counted for real. I do mostly studio work, recording, mixing and mastering. I also do interactive audio, sort of sound for video games, apps, interactive sound, and I play as much as I can in my spare time with my bands.
Mark, can you tell us a little about the history of Seed Sessions? How did the idea first come about, and what are the charity's guiding principles and ethos?
Seed Sessions was built by Izzy Potter, who's the founder of Seed Sessions. And it was made in memory of our mutual friend Toby Seed, who we went to Trinity College of Music with. I think I left in 2010. And unfortunately, our friend Toby committed suicide after going through a long battle with an illness, ended up falling into mental health, depression, anxiety. And when the illness came too much and made him stop playing the guitar, because he wasn't able to play the guitar anymore, unfortunately, he committed suicide. And when Izzy and I heard that story about Toby, it really resonated that no musician should have to go through something like that. It was very apparent to us that musicians need support, especially when they're going through mental health issues or who have previously had mental health issues. And our mission is to basically not let any musician not get the support that they need. It's really important to us. It's a really important story. And it's a really important thing that affects not just musicians, not just men, but everybody. So, we have a really big standpoint around the awareness of mental health within everybody.
You've recently become the director as well as mentor at Seed Sessions. How has your involvement changed over the years?
I guess, aside from just being a mentor and just dealing with the mentoring side of it, I think not really much has changed in terms of what I do. I guess I have a little bit more to say about how things are done within the charity and to bring new ideas to the charity and to build it over the next couple of years. But my main mission is to look at the growth of Seed Sessions and look how we can impact and put our standpoint in other cities and become more of a national charity as opposed to our home here in Bristol.
Amazing. So Giorgio, how did you first find out about Seed Sessions, and also how important was that for you at that time?
That was actually pretty important. That was sort of perfect timing in a way. It happened in a time where basically for the first time ever I started thinking that I would have liked some support with mental health. First time that I sort of tried to reach out and think that I want to talk to someone. And I was looking for support that was either free or low cost, because I couldn't really afford a full price. And I couldn't find it. I was looking around, and there were some offers were too long of a waiting list. Some offers were for profiles that do not match who I am, so I couldn't access them. And then I played a gig at Der Shack, I believe, and Easy came to the gig, and we were just having a chat. She explained me what she does, and I thought, that's exactly what I was looking for. We need to talk about this further. So that's how I came to know it, and then I ended up getting involved and receiving support from Seed Session, and it was great.
Amazing. Well, I mean, kind of moving on to the kind of general stigma around the issue and the need to raise awareness. Seed Sessions as a charity is driven by this necessity to raise public awareness and promote understanding and challenge that stigma. To both of you, really, can you tell us a little more about this stigma that exists around mental health within the music industry, especially for male-identifying musicians? Like, how important is it to hold this space for discussion and raise awareness around this stigma?
It's a big conversation to have. But now I feel the time is the right time to have this conversation. There has been a very big example of how mental health could really affect musicians and artists. For example, Lewis Capaldi, I think, with what he went through and is going through, and having to deal with massive touring schedules and expectations and writing music constantly and being away from your family. There's so many factors with being an artist and a musician that are just not taken into consideration. I think, especially myself being in the industry and toured for over 10, 15 years, some of my peers have shown many signs of anxiety. A lot of them have, get homesick, lack of sleep, falling into drinking alcohol to get through shows. The issues are endless, and I think that part of my work is to be able to bring this to the forefront and start to speak to, labels or artist managers, and really have a big say and look into how we could change how that's the whole infrastructure about how an artist is cared for from a mental health perspective. I really do believe that artists who get the opportunity to become big artists and get thrust into really exhausting touring schedules and studio sessions, I feel that there needs to be some time before they get towards that fame or opportunity where somebody sits down with them and talks about any issues that they've had in the past. For instance, you could be a star overnight and go from making your songs in your bedroom and using it as a way of just expressing yourself to becoming somebody who's watched by thousands, millions, potentially around the world. And you've gone from playing your songs into the bedroom to being into a room with 60,000 people looking at you. It's such a big, fast-paced industry that doesn't always care for the artist. And I just, going back to what I said at the beginning, it's really, really important for me to be able to bring that to the forefront and surface the issues that lie deeper within the music industry. And it's just, it's never the artist's fault, I don't think it's ever the artist's fault, because they're approached at the time where they're making good music, and you never know what's going on in the back of their minds. You never know what's going on at home. You never know what's happened. You never know what's in their past. And it's really important to talk about that and understand the individual, and then look at a way of navigating through the music industry in a very safe way, where the musicians and the artists have the support that they need before it becomes an issue.
Absolutely. I mean, generally on a wide level, the music industry without that level of support, it can feel like going against the tide sometimes, and yeah, so completely understand.
But just to also add on that as well, you know, there's been many examples where it's been identified way too late, where there have been clear signs leading up to that point where the support could have been given. Now, I don't want to be able to say that, you know, it's about greed and managers not looking after the artists because they have to get to the show. You know, there's other people behind the scenes that would, you know, gain something from them doing the shows. But like I said, for me, it really boils down to how management manages their artists and how labels put their expectations in front of the artists to really come to an agreement. Like, okay, you need 6 months off, that's fine. You need 3 months off, that's fine, to reset and just let that person just deal with the issues that they have or they're going through to be able to go again. Because at the end of the day, if the artist and the musician are not in the right frame of mind, what's going to happen is the material and the product that you get for them will be misconstrued, could be not as good as they think it is. And when you get to that point where you're under pressure to deliver something that you're not happy with, for me, that's a dangerous precedent, because what you're doing with the musician and the artist is you're essentially messing around with the one thing that really grounds them. And that's a really dangerous place to be in. And, you know, people can just completely leave the industry and just change everything because it becomes, instead of it becoming therapeutic and important to them, it's now becoming a danger.
Yeah, I mean, from the perspective of a venue, is there a way, in your opinion, that level of support and care can be kind of rolled out on a large scale, say in kind of inclusion in some form of rider when an artist is booked, you know, that kind of actually ingrained level of support that's actually written in from an early stage?
Well, for me, that goes back down to the chain, you know, management, you know, labels. If there is an artist that likes drink maybe a bit too much or has a past of alcoholism, then maybe that decision needs to be taken from a management perspective that there needs to be no alcohol in your rider, or you should have only a certain amount of alcohol, or, you know, every 2 shows there's no alcohol in your rider. Do you know what I mean? So they don't fall into those pitfalls that are so easily done. I mean, I don't necessarily think it's down to the venue per se, but I guess what venues can do, and this is part of what we're doing today, is raise awareness around it. And I think, you know, if that could be done from a venue perspective, then, you know, that can help.
Absolutely. I mean, Giorgio, Seed Sessions has helped break down this stigma within the scene. How have they helped you specifically as an artist?
It did help massively. I think, as Mark was saying, is quite common in the music industry for a variety of reasons, and I think because of that, it's kind of like common knowledge. Is almost subconsciously accepted by most people that you know, mental health issues are an integral part of being a musician. And it's kind of surprising because I don't know how many other industries there are where, you know, apart from being an artist, where that is sort of like obvious and almost expected by a certain number of the people. And I think, in a way, from an artist's perspective, is kind of because of that normalization, I think it might become hard to sort of look for help and support. And I believe that is an inherent, inevitable first step that needs to be taken. I don't think it works very well if somebody else has to impose on you that you need to go and get help. And because it doesn't really work like that. You need to put your own work in it anyway. And if you know, it's like stopping the smoke. It kind of needs to start from you, or it's not going to happen. So I think the main advantage of removing the stigma is making it more of something that people can talk about And initially, you probably talk about it with your bandmates or what people that are your friends or that are close to you. Before then, and depending on how the conversation goes, then somebody might think, okay, maybe I'll go and seek for some support or at least see what's available. And that is so important because way too often, and I think that's why when we talk about male identifying musicians, there might be quite a pattern in males anyway, which we're so used to keep things inside and talking about feelings or how we feel with our other male friends is often sort of avoided or frowned upon, and that definitely doesn't help. So in my case, funnily enough, a really close friend of mine and bandmate also was on Seed Session the same time that I was, and there sort of we ended up obviously talking about it. We're not told who else obviously is out there, but because we talked about it individually, one of us brought it up, that the person was like, oh, me too, wow.
Yeah.
So there eventually we ended up talking about certain issues, I think more than we would have otherwise. And also when there was friction, it was much easier for us to understand the point of view of the other person, because we knew more about what the other person was going through outside of our individual cases. And I think it helped a lot with many, many things.
Absolutely. And that ability to have those open conversations and that kind of heightened feeling that you can talk to your bandmate or another fellow musician that you meet at a gig. How has that influenced your interaction with your craft and your approach to your own music?
Good question. I guess the process is still ongoing. In a way, is relatively fresh. I think it's not things that change in a matter of like weeks, at least in my case. So one thing I always say about sessions for my specific case was that he actually started a process. He hasn't really finished, and yeah, I mean, it changes your outlook on most of your life. So obviously, for most musicians, music is probably the biggest part of your life. It affects everything. Yeah, it would be hard for me now to explain exactly how it's going, but everything...
It's an ongoing process.
Everything shifts, and you're kind of observing it, and it's still happening.
Well, I mean... So kind of going on to mental health within the music industry as a whole, and music's ability to heal us and provide a very deep-rooted healing, I guess, in a variety of ways. I mean, in all cultures, eras, and in all forms, music has always had a deep-rooted capacity to heal and play a vital role in our mental health. We find connection in the spaces it creates, emotional grounding in the spaces and the swirling sonorities and sound worlds. We find home in the embrace of our instrument. However, for many, performance can detract from this and often bring anxiety and self-judgment into the mix. But also, for many, as you've alluded to as well, making music brings people together and can bring so much joy and so many other positive benefits. Mark, in your opinion, what capacity does music have to heal in this way? And how can those positive health benefits outweigh the potentially negative elements that you've discussed, from management to the performance?
You've touched upon a very important subject there. For starters, if you're a musician, your free time is more likely to have experienced anxiety and depression. And I think what I was saying earlier about when your music, your product is messed around is not probably the best phrase. When it's not what you want it to be, or you're not actually producing, you're happy with the music you're putting out there, and when you have other people behind you influencing the direction of your music, that's when, for an artist or a musician, that's when they could start to really dislike what they're doing. If it's making this music very therapeutic for you and it's putting you in a certain mindset, that being interfered with can be really dangerous. You start to lose morale, start to really look at yourself as like, what is this music? What am I making? What does it actually mean? Making music is very powerful. It's been, there's so much examples of how music can really relate to people who are going through the same thing. You use your lyrics, your words very wisely to build a narrative within the song, but also to express the pain that you're going through. We have love songs, we have songs about pain, we have songs about many, many different things. And I just feel that the connection that you can have with your fan base is extremely powerful. Hence, like I've mentioned many times, we really need to look at how the artist is managed at that point. To the point where if they're going through stuff, the music they're going to bring out is not going to necessarily be good. You shouldn't be in a studio, or if you're going to be in a studio, that time should be left for you to actually use that time to express yourself. It's very much music's used by artists to express themselves. So I make my music because it expresses myself. I know a load of guys that make their music because it's just fun. They don't necessarily want to go into the industry. It's not what it's about. They don't want the fame. That's the thing. Being thrust into fame and having people know about every single thing about you and really digging into your history can be quite daunting. Do you know what I mean? So to answer your question, I think it's very healing. Words have a lot of power that have the power to connect people, and it outweighs the cons. I mean, there's many cons that you can't really deal with because it's just collateral damage. But in terms of allowing the artist to have the freedom to express themselves and make the music that they're happy with, is an extremely, extremely vital thing that just needs to be managed carefully.
Yeah, for sure. And Giorgio, I mean, on a personal level, if you feel comfortable sharing this, how is that balance for you as a musician between the more positive sides of music for your mental health and those negative elements that it can bring in as well? And also, how has that changed over your time working with Seed Sessions?
It's interesting. I was making a joke with someone, I think yesterday. We were saying, when you're a performing musician, either your self-worth is on the floor or you're full of yourself. And a lot of,
very true.
Often people do both, back and forth, constantly, depending on, because you're so attached to what you do musically, and you're expressing. You are effectively, when you're playing, especially if you're performing live, you're pretty much talking from the bottom of your heart through an instrument instead of words. So you're inevitably exposed, and your perception of how other people perceive it just affects you so much. It doesn't even have to be the reality of whether people like it or not. It's just your perception of how you did and what you think other things of you. It's just very powerful, and it affects your moods. Well, affect my moods constantly. So it is a fine balance. I think with music, people that consider themselves musicians, I think it's almost an inevitable thing, almost like a calling. It's like a need you have to have music in your life and to make music. it's not much of a choice in most cases. It's something that you have to do, whether it becomes your profession or a second profession or just a hobby. It's a thing that you inevitably end up doing. So you kind of have to figure out what works and what doesn't for you. And it's so personal. What you were saying earlier was extremely valid, and it varies greatly from each individual to another one. For some people, the live show, the performance part is the problem or is the terrifying part. For others, is the production or setting things in stones. For others, it's collaboration that it becomes stressful, and there's no really one size fit all formula. And funnily enough, that's one of the things in my case, I really appreciated about Seed Session. It was how flexible they were and how open they were since the beginning for a sort of bespoke type of support. They have a nice sort of offering where they don't only offer sort of counseling one-to-one, but there is also mentoring from other musicians and expert in your own instrument, and studio time, and that was actually adapted to me because I'm a sound engineer and I spend so much of my time in recording studios already. I did not get the studio time, and instead I got more sessions of the counseling, and
So it's flexible and tailored to you.
yeah, funnily enough, obviously that is needed because everybody have different needs, but also just the fact that they were that they were willing to do that. It just creates a different dynamic and an attention. It makes you feel like they care, they actually care. They're not just, oh, we need to offer this because we know it's needed, but they actually care about you as a person. And I think that when someone is going through something and feels a bit fragile and insecure, that is the most important thing. Feeling that someone actually cares specifically about you, and that's what was very good in my case.
Completely. And that, it really sounds like that has had a huge impact on you as an artist and your interaction with that craft. Sorry.
I just wanted to say something, but I know the kind of highlights on musicians, but because they're on the front line, but this affects everybody that kind of works in the industry, and I'm talking about sound engineers, lighting engineers, backline tech engineers. They all go through the same thing. A lot of their issues is derived around sleep deprivation, not being able to sleep, working stupid hours. Although the musicians has come in for 4 and sound check, do the gig at 8 and off by 10. These guys are up at like 10 o'clock in the morning, rigging the whole system, making sure you're fine. They have to deal with the stress from the venue people. They have to deal with the stress from the musicians, the artists sometimes, deal with the stress from management. So, as much as the forefront is about people on the front line, the musicians, artists, it does affect DJs, producers, backline tech. So, I think it's very important that we also say that.
Absolutely. It's such a valid point. And really amazing to bring to the conversation that breaking down that stigma isn't just a singular thing. It's about raising awareness about the music industry as a whole and the way that we can all support each other and all nurture each other on all levels to produce a better musical society for us to create and to feel comfortable and to feel valid and to feel self-worth, I guess, and supported, just to have that network, I guess. So we've talked about the performance side, and we were lucky enough to see you perform with your band at our session here with Seed Sessions in March, I believe it was, and incredible night. And obviously this is also a big part of Seed Sessions to discuss, and putting on events such as this to provide a supportive, safe space for male-identified musicians to perform and to have that network around them. Can you tell us about these events and the kind of the goal of these events and what you hope to achieve by putting on events such as this?
We just came off. We took a couple of the guys up to Camp Kerala, which is a camping site in Glastonbury, and we partnered up with them to give a couple of our guys a platform to perform. It's very much we work in conjunction with our participants to drive awareness. It's not necessarily about, it is to a sense giving them performance opportunity, but the main thing that we trying to get across is the awareness of, one, what we're doing, two, mental health, and three, just breaking down the stigma of the negativity around it in general. And we're starting to look at more innovative ways that we can really break that barrier. Being invited to this podcast is a great thing to bring awareness. So thank you guys again for inviting us. We're also going to be working with Buskers Banquet to raise awareness at their events, which is pretty cool. And I'm just generally looking for ways that we could partner up people that are very much aligned with, one, our mission, and two, just really being around to drive awareness. Because like I said, we need to talk about this stuff. A lot of people don't talk about it. It could be hidden. I have a history of hiding about my mental health and not talking about it. And that also touches upon, the general feeling around men being able just to deal with it. It's not that bad. You can get over it. You're a guy, but that's really not the right way to think about it. It's very much men need to be in touch with their emotions. You need to be able to talk as much as possible, and it's just healthy to be able to get it off your chest, And with that, I want to kind of drive the awareness to people to be able to not be afraid to ask somebody just a really simple question, like, are you okay? To identify when somebody might potentially be going through an issue. Should it be labelled as being, oh, he's just a bit weird? No, it's not a bit weird. It's always a bit deeper than that. You need to take the time to actually figure out, okay, that person could be going through something. Let me just ask. They're not obliged to engage with you, and then that really much goes down to how they're feeling, even if it's too personal to disclose. But just having that initial connection of, are you okay? I think you might not be all right. I'm here to talk. Even though they might not want to talk to you, it might get them thinking that they need to talk to somebody. And then that's when it becomes a cascading effect where you can get coaxed and cajoled, because what Giorgio was saying at the beginning, being able to say you need to get help is not necessarily the right way of doing it. It can be quite bullish, and he's like, well, maybe I know I do need it, but I'm getting there. You know what I mean? But one thing definitely Izzy, the founder, taught me is there is a bit of coaxing and cajoling. There's a certain way to ask. There's certain things to look out for, to be able to identify, and then put the opportunity in front of them. You meet these people to be able to just have that connection, and then touch with things will start to come in front of you that can help. But it's very much an awareness thing. It's not going to overturn overnight, but one of our important work is to be able to at least start the conversation and partner up with other people that follow our ethos. So at the moment, the next kind of thing that we've got coming up for us is working with Buskers Banquet to drive awareness, and hopefully we can get a couple of opportunities for our guys to play at their events. And just looking into how we could work closer with our partners. We work closely with DBS Pro, who are really nice and allow us to use their studios when we're going through a cohort for our participants. We also look at ways we can work closely with them to grow our offering at seed sessions and partner them up to really do a big awareness campaign. So if anybody's interested in driving the awareness and breaking down the stigma of mental health within men and in general, we're always open to talk about it and to partner up. So
That sounds amazing. Yeah. Well, I mean, something that I was really struck by at the amazing show here in March in our cafe bar was how you managed in a very seamless and a very quite subtle way, to be honest, to raise awareness at every point in the concert itself, and in a variety of ways, whether it was holding a short interview discussion in the interval when some people were off buying drinks, or to have the raffle that actually actively raised money towards the cause, and while also telling more people directly about the message. And yeah, it's really incredible seeing you use that space to further that message in a widespread way, really, and making the most of every possible moment to deconstruct that stigma, I guess.
Totally, and I think with the guys that spoke and Giorgio today, part of the offering is being an example of it's okay to talk. Sometimes you have to see somebody talking about the issues or the problems to be able to say, okay, actually it's not that bad to do it, or this could be quite therapeutic. Obviously, you have the power to be as deep or just on the surface as you want, but to be able to do something like this and talk about your experience. I don't know, Giorgio, has you seen yourself being a little bit more susceptible to talking about what's happened in the past or things that you have done to help you move forward than you were before you met Seed Sessions? Is that something that's kind of come towards you that's a little bit more comfortable than it wasn't before? Because I feel that with you especially and a couple of the guys, they're way more open about talking about it. And that helps others. Somebody could hear you, okay, wow, literally going through something I've gone through, and I can see the path that they're going through. And like Giorgio said, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. It's a whole, could be 2 years, could be 3 years, could be 6 weeks, could be, do you know what I mean? It's very much individual to that person, but allow them to be in situations where they can find themselves ways of helping them, I don't say helping themselves, but using their voice to talk about it, to further themselves is very important, I feel.
It's really amazing that you are actively providing that safe space to do so. I mean, on that kind of level, you've mentioned projects and partnerships that you're looking forward to with Seed Sessions. What else is on the horizon for both of you in terms of your music? What key dates have you got coming up?
I've got a few projects that I'm involved with. I play in a samba band called Blocco B. I think we just finished the season. I play in a band called Locomos that I formed together with Tristan, and we're about to release a single. I don't know the date. I think it's in a month. About. I think it's gonna be sometimes in September.
Mixed and mastered by you?
I mixed it.
Okay,
I produced it. We recorded in J&J. I mixed it, and I think Optimus mastered it. And it's coming out in a month. And I have this project called Limpet, which is where we played in St. George. That was actually our first gig.
Really?
Yes.
You would never have known at all.
Oh, I'm glad. That's good.
Absolutely incredible show.
That was our first show. Yeah, it's a very new project. It's quite experimental. And we have a gig. It's just been confirmed on the 7th of November in St. Stephen's Church in town in Bristol. And we are basically preparing a new show just for the church, because the space is beautiful and we have somebody working on video mapping the whole place with some lasers.
That's incredible.
It's gonna be good.
Sign me up. That sounds so good.
Yeah. That's my next steps.
Your next steps. And my next steps, well, I've got a little tour in Asia in September. So I'm off to Bali and Singapore and Thailand for a few weeks to do some gigs for myself. But yeah, when I come back, well, while I be away, I'll still be working on seed sessions. But yeah, what we've got coming up next, we're looking into doing a new cohort of participants before the end of the year. So we'll be looking for new individuals to be able to go through our course at Seed Sessions. But yeah, I'm also looking at how we can really expand the offering that we already have at Seed Sessions. Like I said, the kind of course that you go through, the music mentorship and the one-to-one counselling and the studio time, is something that takes, about 3 months. But what I learned very quickly that this is just not a 3-month thing, and 3 months is just about scratching the surface. So we're working on ways that we could expand our counselling offering to the guys, to really expand that. We've just gone through a course of top-up sessions where we have given the opportunity to our participants to have more counselling. That's been very helpful, and it's been a successful thing that we've done. We've recently acquired a space for the participants to use to build on their careers. So we have a room over at Joseph Studios, which they can use for rehearsals. We can use for their media, if they need any videos to make or to do any kind of visuals, and to meet up and talk and support each other. One of the main things that we discovered this year when we went for our first social was having everybody in Seed Sessions in one room was very therapeutic, and everybody was like, "Hey," do you know what I mean? And it was a really nice. Izzy felt really good because it's like, okay, this is it. This is a room of like-minded people who are gelling. That in any other situation where there's an amount of new people, could be quite daunting. But because they're here for a reason, have gone through the same thing, have received the same support, and are comfortable with the people around them, it's really nice to see them blossom and talk with each other and think of ways they could further each other's careers and help each other out in their music and just generally be there for each other. So, we're working around the infrastructure, how we can build some infrastructure around that for them to support themselves, but for us to be able there to overlook and make sure everything's all right. And always make the guys know that my inbox phone is always open to talk, and that's a very important thing that I think that needs to be reiterated, that I'm always around to talk. And it's just good to talk. It's really good to talk. When you just keep these things in, it's never a good thing. So yeah, going back to what Seed Sessions has up for the next couple of months and next year, it's building on the offering, doing a new cohort of sessions, working with our partners to build on the awareness campaign, and obviously fundraising to be able to keep doing the important work that we're doing.
Amazing. Well, I can't wait to see what both of you and Seed Sessions have in store over the next year, over the next however long. I'd like to thank you both so much for joining us today, and yet also for sharing, because it's an incredibly personal matter on a lot of levels, and for talking within this space about this incredibly important issue that affects us all within the music industry.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it.